My future mother in law tried to control our wedding, so we returned her $25,000. Now, she might not even be invited. It all started when she offered us that money, but I knew it came with strings. Deep down, I feared it would mean losing control over the most important day of our lives. Let me back up a bit and explain how we got here. My fiance and I had been planning a small, intimate wedding, just 50 people, our closest friends and family. We both prefer the quiet company of people who truly matter to us. We envisioned a day that celebrated our unique journey together, devoid of distant relatives and old acquaintances who faded from our lives long ago. Our dream was simple and meaningful, and it felt right. When my future mother in law offered us $25,000 to help with the wedding, my heart dropped. It was a generous offer, undeniably, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it came with expectations. Expectations that would turn our day into something it wasn't meant to be. I wasn't sure if I was overreacting or being overly suspicious, but the nagging doubt persisted. After reading your advice on Reddit, I realized I wasn't alone in my concerns. With renewed confidence, I decided to have a heartfelt conversation with her. My fiance sat beside me as we explained how much we valued our original plans and how essential it was for us to honor them. We made it clear that we hadn't deposited the check yet because we needed to ensure everyone was on the same page. I tried to convey how much I missed the warm relationship we once had, but lately it felt as if every choice we made for the wedding was quietly questioned or ignored. I hoped she could see things from our perspective. I shared the significance of our chosen venue, a quaint restaurant where we first met at a speed dating event 4 years ago. It was a place filled with memories and our first choice for the reception. I also insisted that my wedding gown would be my choice alone. I wanted something that reflected my personal style, even if it wasn't the traditional bridal look. It was non negotiable. I hoped she would understand that these decisions were deeply personal to us. To her credit, my future mother in law was emotional and apologetic. She confessed her fear of being left out of the wedding planning, having never had a daughter of her own. Her tears seemed genuine, and in that moment I believed we had reached a resolution. Feeling hopeful, we deposited the check and began confirming vendors, with plans to move forward as a united family. But then, the first sign of trouble appeared. When I called the restaurant to book the reception, the private function room was already reserved for our specific date. It was disappointing, but not devastating. We decided to explore other options, thinking it was simply an unfortunate coincidence. Then, things took a bizarre turn. A few days later, I received a call from a wedding planner. My future mother in law had hired her to assist with our wedding. Confused and a little suspicious, I called to ask why she had done this without consulting us. She explained that my fiance had mentioned our venue mishap, and she wanted to relieve some of the burden from my shoulders. I hesitated, but decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps she genuinely wanted to help. We met with the planner, sharing our vision for a small, intimate wedding. She promised to arrange everything accordingly. Yet, when she sent us a list of potential venues, they were all enormous, designed for hundreds of guests. Alarm bells were ringing. At our first venue viewing, my fiance joked about the absurdity of needing so much space for just 50 people. The planner looked puzzled and explained that my future mother in law had mentioned we might expand the guest list. That was the moment everything clicked. Feeling overwhelmed, I broke down and called my mom. She listened patiently as I vented my frustrations and shared my fears of elopement. Her instincts were sharp, and she decided to investigate further. She called the original restaurant, pretending to be my future mother in law's forgetful sister, just to confirm the booking. And then we discovered the truth. My future mother in law had deliberately reserved our venue to manipulate us into choosing a larger location. It felt like a punch to the gut, a betrayal from someone who was supposed to be family. She wanted to control our wedding, turning it into a grand affair that suited her vision instead of ours. My fiance, furious and protective, confronted her directly. He made it clear that her interference was unacceptable and that she was no longer involved in any aspect of the planning. We would not work with her planner, and all vendors would be password protected. Her attendance at the wedding was now conditional, and she was lucky to still be invited at all. We transferred her money back, making a definitive statement that our wedding was our own. I told my fiancé that I was going no contact with her. I would be civil on our wedding day to avoid drama, but after that, she would no longer have a place in my life. He stood by me, supporting my decision wholeheartedly. Reflecting on everything that's happened, I feel a mix of sadness and relief. Sadness for the relationship that could have been, and relief for reclaiming control over our wedding. I learned that boundaries are essential, even with family, and that our wedding day should reflect our love story, not someone else's dreams. In the quiet moments that followed, as I sat alone at our kitchen table, I couldn't help but let the weight of it all settle over me. The hollow sound of the clock ticking in the background punctuated the silence, each tick a reminder of how time marches on, with or without the chaos that sometimes accompanies it. The enormity of what had transpired slowly seeped into my bones, and I felt a strange mix of liberation and loss. I thought about how weddings are often painted as these fairy tale events, the culmination of love stories, but no one ever talks about the undercurrents of tension that can run beneath. The politics, the power struggles, the hidden expectations. These are the shadows that lurk behind the lace and flowers, the things that can turn a joyful occasion into a battlefield of wills. It struck me then, as I sat there, that what I felt most was a profound sense of betrayal. My future mother in law, who I had once thought of as a second mother, had been willing to jeopardize our happiness to fulfill her own vision of what our wedding should be. It was a harsh reminder of how people can sometimes act in ways that are incongruent with the love they claim to have for us. And yet, as the initial anger began to subside, I found room for a glimmer of empathy. Her actions, misguided as they were, came from a place of longing. Longing for involvement, for connection, for a day that she could claim as her own in some small way. It didn't excuse what she did, but it added a layer of complexity to her motivations. It reminded me that human beings are rarely all good or all bad, but rather a confusing mix of both. My thoughts drifted back to the wedding planner, who had seemed genuinely perplexed by the conflicting instructions she had received. I wondered how many other brides had walked this path before me, caught in the web of family dynamics that threatened to overshadow their day. It was a sobering thought, but also a comforting one. We were not alone in this struggle, and perhaps that made it a little easier to bear. As I considered the future, I felt a renewed determination to reclaim our wedding as a celebration of our love and our journey. It was time to revisit the drawing board, to seek out new venues that resonated with us, to find vendors who understood our vision and respected our boundaries. It was time to craft a day that was authentically ours, free from the strings that had threatened to bind us. I realized, too, that I had learned something invaluable about my relationship with my fiance. In the face of adversity, he had stood by my side, unwavering in his support. His fierce protectiveness had fortified my resolve, reminding me of the strength we shared as a couple. It was a beautiful irony that amidst the turmoil, our bond had only deepened, a testament to the resilience of love. With a sigh, I rose from the table, feeling a little lighter, a little more at peace. There were still details to iron out, decisions to be made, but for the first time in what felt like ages, I felt hopeful. Hopeful that our wedding would be a reflection of who we were, not who others wanted us to be. Hopeful that we could navigate these choppy waters and emerge stronger on the other side. And so we pressed on, hand in hand, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Whatever the outcome, I knew one thing for certain: our wedding day would be ours, and ours alone. A day that celebrated not just the love we had found in each other, but the courage to stand up for what truly mattered. Stay tuned for more stories.